Hey, kia ora, Helen Brahms here, coming to you live from Sun City in Arizona. Hope you've all had a super fantastic sparkling day. How was your day? It was Shake It Up Saturday. How was your day? Did you get through the day okay? Did you spend time reflecting? Kind of felt like it was kind of a weird day. I was still in my super fantastic sparkling mode, but it just felt a little weird. And I think that's because, being the 20th anniversary of 9/11, that was something that shook us up a lot. So I'm not quite, I was having so that kind of shook the day up a little bit, because it's always good to shake the day up and be out of routine. We got out of routine very easily today. But just the thought of the anniversary, it's 20 years. And I was sitting here, I was thinking, what have we done in 20 years since that happened? What has happened in my life personally since that day? How has that day shaped what I've come, where I am now and what I'm doing now? And, it's changed how we traveled. That was a big change that came out of that one. But it was just a day of reflection. Where was I? What was I doing? Did I know anybody in any of those locations? I shared this morning that Brad was on his way to work when he saw the smoke go up from the plane hitting the Pentagon. So he actually saw that. And when he got to work, they were immediately put into lockdown. Nobody was allowed on base. Nobody was allowed to leave until they had the all clear. He didn't get to leave there till I think it was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and came home. And he didn't get home till, it took him it's normally an hour, a 45 to 60-minute drive from his work to home. And it took him a good couple of hours to get home just because of the traffic. But, there's a lot of things that are going on, and I've kind of stayed off social media today for a reason, and that was to protect my mentality. Because I remember that day very vividly. I remember what happened. I remember the after effects to me, because I was internalizing everything that I was seeing on TV. I was feeling empathy and sympathy for people who were standing there waiting for loved ones. I remember, a girl holding a picture of her dad and talking about how wonderful her dad was. So hearing all of those stories and everything, and they are great stories to hear. They are part of our story. They are part of our life. And I was having a great conversation with a friend today. We got on Zoom, and we were on there for, I think it was like 3 hours. And we were just having a great conversation. But we were talking about how history is getting lost a little bit in the day-to-day living. And that's one of the reasons that I'm so passionate about genealogy, is helping people make that connection with points in history, so that they have an interest in that portion of history, because their ancestors were involved in this. So people today, you got kids growing up who are born after 9/11 and going, well, what's all that about? I don't care about it. Well, actually, your grandfather was involved in that, or your grandmother, or your aunt, your uncle. Tell them the stories about the people who were, that, especially if they were in your family or a very close friend of your family. Let the kids know that, they had somebody who was in their family, like a grandfather, an aunt, an uncle, a parent, a sibling, maybe a sibling, who was somehow involved with 9/11, and either in the recovery afterwards with the cleanups and everything going on, or if they worked in the towers or worked at the Pentagon, or if they were on one of those flights. Talk to them about it. Let them know about this thing. And let them know what that person was like. That's what keeps people alive for us after they've transitioned, is the memories. It's those memories. It's sharing those memories. It's talking about them. That's what keeps those people alive for us. Jeepers. It really is what keeps them in our hearts and keeps them alive. And can I just say that September's one of those months where I love September and a lot of aspects about it, but there's some things I don't like so much about September. Having 2 dogs go in September, a grandmother pass in September, a husband pass in September. But then the joy out of it is I have 2 daughter-in-laws, a sister-in-law, niece, and a nephew and a grandson, all born in, and an uncle and an aunt, all born in September. So September's got a lot of joy in it, but there are those those not so joyful moments, but the days to reflect and to celebrate their lives. And that's what today is all about, is to reflect on that day and not look at it as the tragedy that it was a tragedy. It was and some people's lives were just changed forever. Well, everybody's life was changed forever that day. But what came out of it? What changed for you from that day? Yes, travel was definitely one of those things that changed for all of us during that day. There was the airport screenings, the longer lines, the extra screenings we had to go through, all in an effort to make this country safer for us, or make travel safer for everybody. What was I trying to say? But celebrate the people that you lost on that day or in the days following. Celebrate their lives, because their life meant something. So make sure you celebrate it and you remember them with love and fondness. And what contribution did they make to your lives? I've got Brad's 4-year anniversary coming up in less than 2 weeks. And that day is always, and the closer I get, I sort of have that, it's a very up and down emotional month for me. And even this day is kind of emotional because of all those lives that were lost. But there are people worth celebrating. There are people that your loved one, if you lost loved ones from either on 9/11 or as a result of 9/11, celebrate their lives. Let those who are around you that weren't there on 9/11, let them know about those people. What were they like? What were their favorite things to do? How goofy did they get on certain occasions? Were they the prankster of the family? Did they always have a good joke to tell? Were they that quiet, steady, supportive person who was the glue to that family? Did they have a favorite recipe that you really enjoyed that they made? What was one of their favorite things to do for the holidays or on birthdays? Did they have a birthday tradition that they liked to do? Who were they? How did they fit into your family? And what were they like? Let people know about that. But so I've had a day of reflection. I've had great conversations today. Like I said, I had a 3-hour one. We talked about a lot of stuff. It was amazing, the different topics and things we got covered from being how small this world is with the people that you meet and when you meet them, all the way through to our thoughts and we even talked about 9/11 and kind of where we were and what I remember about that day. And it's good to talk about those things, not shove them under the carpet or anything else. History is there for a reason. We have history because it's been lived. You can't sweep historical events under the carpet. I'm sorry. As much as you try, those events happened. Whether you like it or not, the events happened. It's how you cope with them. It's how you deal with them. It's how you move on with them. It's how you learn from them. What lessons could you learn from historical moments? Those moments in time. What lessons can you take from the global pause we've been in for the last 18 months plus 20 months? What lessons can you learn from this global pause? What lessons did you learn from 9/11? What lessons did you learn if you're involved with Hurricane Katrina? What lessons did you learn during that time? What lessons have you learned during the whole all the wars that have been going on around, if you've been affected in any way with those? What lessons did you take from that? Think about those times. Think about the lessons that you've learned from those historical moments, those historical events that happened. Because history has a way of repeating itself. Think about that. History has a way of repeating itself. I was talking with my friend. We were talking about the Spanish flu pandemic that went on. I said, I wonder when that. And so we looked up that was actually in 1918, and here we were in 2020. Just 102 years later, put into a global pause again. So there was a global pause back with the Spanish flu that became another global pause 102 years later. In another 100 years or 102 years, will there be another pandemic that will hit the world? Who knows? But history has a way of repeating itself. So what lessons have we learned that we can then take and move forward and make things better? So I'm going to leave you with that thought today. So have a good time. Take time to reflect. And yes, it's not one of my usual sparkly, bubbly things, But remember, no matter what happens today is always super fantastic and sparkling. There's always something you can be grateful for today. Like, I am grateful for the experiences that I've gone through. I'm grateful for the memories that I have at 9/11 that I can share with future generations. So if anything like this should happen again, there's lessons in there that can be learned for our people following. There's lessons that can be learned in everything. It's what we do with those lessons. Do we ignore them, or do we move forward and embrace them and follow them through? So that's my bit for today. I know it's a lot more serious than it normally is, but like I said, doesn't matter. No matter what happens today, it's always super fantastic and sparkling, and that's just the way it is. You've got to look at the good things. You've got to be grateful for the experiences that you have, even when you're in one of the worst moments of your life. One of mine would be Brad's passing, but I'm still grateful for that moment, for being there, for the time that we had together. We were together 23 years, 22 years, 23 years. We were coming up on our 19th wedding anniversary. Our 19th wedding anniversary would have been 3 months later. And, but I'm grateful for every single moment that we got to spend together, even the times when we were arguing and fighting, because every couple goes through those moments. Our marriage wasn't perfect. We worked at it. We had miscommunications. We had disagreements. We had arguments that where one of us would leave the house and go for a drive to calm down, and then come back and would sit down and talk about it. And but every couple goes through it, and I'm grateful for each and every one of those moments. Ups, downs, it doesn't matter, because something good always came out of the down moments, and helped lift us back up again. The good part is that during his cancer journey, we were never down together at the same time. If one of us was down low in emotion, emotional banks were a little depleted, we were getting overrun with emotions and everything, the other one was there to lift the other person up. So we were never down at the same time. There's always one of us was there to lift up the other one. So, and it's like that through anything that you go through in life. It's nice to always have somebody that you can go to and say, hey, I just need somebody to talk with. I just need somebody to vent with. I just remember sitting down on the couch and going, I need to vent. I might have just had an episode with a cruise line where the customer service person was not understanding what I wanted, or not being as cooperative as they should be, and telling me I couldn't do things when I knew I could do them. Just you know what it's like with a customer service. You can get frustrated on a customer service line with anybody, whether it is somebody who is trying to help you, but there's a miscommunication thing going on where you're not understanding what they want, and they're not able to communicate exactly what it is that they want, and you think they're one thing, and then you're interpreting it as something else. Or being told by somebody, oh no, you can't do that. Well, hang on, I could do it last week. Why can't I do it this week? That sort of thing. Oh, you shouldn't have been able to do it last week. Let's go in there and have a look. But and I would go sit down to Brad and I would say, I need to vent. And I trained him. On this, because sometimes I just wanted somebody to hear what I had to say, and other times I needed help figuring it out. And so he would ask me, do you need my help, or do you just need to vent? And I go, I just need to vent. And then I would just go on this tirade. And at the end of it, I'd go, thank you, sweetie. I love you. And I get hugs, kisses and hugs. And I'd feel so much better because I had let it out of my system instead of internalizing it. And then other times I was sort of like, I need help. I need to vent and I need help. And so he would let me spew forth everything. And then he would ask clarifying questions. He was very good at this. He would ask clarifying questions. And then together we would work out what the solution would be, or what we could do about it. So it was always nice to have him there for that. And I really miss that part. The venting part, just the sitting down and throwing out, hey, I've had an idea. And you would literally, and he would sit there and his eyes would roll. And you could almost hear the voice in his head going, oh crap, now what? Because he was sort of like, you come up with some crazy ideas. I said, I know. And sometimes nothing comes from those ideas, and other times great things come from those ideas. But just to have somebody to bounce the ideas off was awesome. I could just go sit down, flop down on the couch and go, I've got an idea. I've had an idea. Hey, what if we go do this? And he'd just look at me and go, really? So yeah, but take time to reflect. Look at the things that have happened in your life. What are you grateful for? Be grateful for those moments. Remember those moments with fun. And yes, I know there is heartache when somebody is lost or when there's attacks taking place. I get it. I understand it. But you've also got to take, what How did it change me? What did it do for me? What can I be grateful for in that moment? What did I learn in that moment that I can be grateful for? Always, 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 always find something to be grateful for. And that is why, no matter what happens, every day is super fantastic and sparkling. Go have an awesome evening, and we'll catch you back here tomorrow morning for Serenity Sunday. It may even be from a dog park. Hei konera.